All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're already a couple minutes behind, but good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the individual sales, how to become a little bit more efficient, some tools and resources to help you in your individual sales endeavors. My name is Kevin Lindmeyer. I am the Medicare Sales Manager here at OCI. So just to give you a rundown of what we're going to be doing in this breakout session, I'm going to do a very quick tutorial on CSG Actuarial. It's just a quoting tool for the Medicare products, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage Part D. Take me all of maybe 5 minutes to go through that real quick. I'll pass the baton over to Chris Basile, who's going to cover kind of some cross-selling and just different techniques to help give the full package to your clients. And then Cassandra from Base will take over after Chris. And if we have time at the end, Nick Elbert from our brokerage department is going to do a quick tutorial on the life quoting tool. So without further ado, I'm going to migrate to the back of the room because I got to take over the computer controls to do the quote. But bear with me for just a second here. Big shout out to Sam, our IT guy, who has made this run so seamlessly. In case you didn't know, Nate Olson was supposed to be giving this presentation. He's not here this morning, so we scrambled this morning to put this together. So, for anyone that hasn't used CSG Actuarial, this is what the dashboard is going to look like. It is not quite up and running on our website as of today, but we hope to have that going very soon, probably within the next week, maybe 2 weeks. There will be a link right when you log into OCIservices.com, and you'll be able to run your MedSup, Medicare Advantage and Part D, and some dental and vision quotes right through this tool. I'm just going to do a real quick Medicare supplement quote for you, show you how easy it is. So let's just do 68154, common Omaha zip code. We'll leave it at age 65, female, non-tobacco, Plan G. We'll sort it by price. You can also sort it by company name and some other filters. We'll leave the household discount on there, change it to a 9/1 effective date, although that really isn't going to affect your rates for Medicare supplement all that much. Pretty easy. Put in the basic information. You click Get Quote, and once it gets done thinking, it'll populate the different quotes. So, Ascendo is an Aetna company, so that's kind of a newer, more lower-priced, competitive company just because it's brand new rates. If you want to group some together, you can always just highlight the ones that you want. So let's do Aetna, Humana, Pan American is a brand new company we're working with, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So you can do up to 5 at the same time. We'll do another Aetna company. Shows you the rates in order of price, obviously. You can also add in, if you want to look at the annual rate instead of the monthly rate, you can break it down by what it's going to cost annually. You can click on some of these other filters on the left side here. You cannot have the expanded quotes if you just want to look at the monthly premium amounts without the name and AM Best rating, all that. This is what I find most useful is this market analytics. So we can look at not just the AM Best rating, S&P rating, how they rate their plans, years in the market, all that. Ascendo hasn't been in the market long enough to have years in the market, but let's look at like Blue Cross Blue Shield. So Blue Cross Blue Shield has been in the market for 54 years, obviously a lot of experience. Their age increases, so if you go from 65 to 66 years old, you're not going to get an increase. Same 67, but at 68, you're going to get a 5.5% increase, basically going from 67 to 68 years old. Increase history. I think this is one of the most important aspects of this quoting tool. It's going to show you their rate increases over the last several years, and then it'll show the average at the bottom. So since 2013, the average rate increase for Blue Cross and Blue Shield on their Medicare supplements has been 2.1%. It's going to show you as part of their market data how many lives they have insured in the nation and in the state. Obviously, this is all going to be the same for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska because they are state-based. They are not nationwide. So it's going to show you what percentage of the market they have, their loss ratio. That's a really good loss ratio. They shouldn't have big rate increases based on that. They have about 41% of the market. So that's just a real quick tutorial on MedSups. You can turn this into a PDF and easily email it to your client. You can print it off if you are meeting them in person, but if you want to turn it into a PDF, you can choose whether or not to add the plan details. So this information on this page where it shows the household discount monthly rate, monthly discounted rate, annual rate, all that. You can also include the Part A and Part B benefits as part of this. So you just click add to PDF or skip it and just download it as it is. So with that, we can. It will be on AGB. It is not right at this very moment, but in the next week or two. So we're just finalizing everything with CSG and making sure that it's going to be a single sign-on. You're not going to have to log into this quoting tool. Essentially, you log into OCIservices.com, and then where you normally go to individual quote, we're going to have a link for Medicare supplement or just Medicare quotes, and it will have this CSG tool. You click there, it signs you in automatically, and you're off and running quotes. So Medicare Advantage is very similar. You put in the zip code, it's going to populate all the Medicare Advantage and Part D plans in that area. So I'm not going to waste too much time. I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on CSG. It is going to be something that I know it is going to help make business run a little bit more efficiently, more smoothly. You know, I hate to say that our quoting tool right now is not up to snuff, but it doesn't show the household discounts. It doesn't show the market analytics and everything else. So this is going to be a much better tool, and it's always going to be up to date. We're not going to have to worry about having, you know, the wrong application or carrier website, anything like that. This is automatically updated. So without further ado, I'm going to, yeah. To start with, you're not going to be able to do e-apps. That is something that we're thinking about adding in. Right now, there's only a couple of carriers that have the e-app available. So I believe it's Aetna and Mutual of Omaha. They're supposed to be adding WellCare, United Healthcare, and a couple other carriers for e-apps. If and when that happens, we'll reevaluate, and we might be able to make it so that you can run the quote and just do the e-app right from there. The e-application is essentially like a universal application. You fill in all the information, and they kind of fit that to the carrier-specific application, send it off to the carrier for you. So, yeah, it should make things a lot easier for everyone involved. Any other questions about this tool, CSG Actuarial? So without further ado, I'm going to pass the reins over to Chris Basile, and he's going to do a little presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I have to pass it off to be sanitized. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just don't put your mouth on.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Chris Basile with OCI. I work in the individual department, specifically with individual health and Medicare enrollment. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about protecting your clients and increasing your customer retention, kind of through cross-selling and being able to add additional products for your customer that I don't think a lot of agents are taking advantage of right now. All right, so are you worth $18? That's about the average commission right now for an under 65 policy. So today we're going to talk about basically increasing that. You know, how much more can you go? 3, 5, 10 times more of that in commission. We're going to kind of talk through some ways that you're going to be able to do that here. While biggest thing is providing better coverage for your client. We're not really just trying to upsell them, but you will get rewarded greatly, and we'll have some examples at the end of how much this can increase commissions, especially through short-term medical and ancillary products. First, we're going to talk a little bit about ACA plans, Affordable Care Act, who is it best suited for? So these are the plans specifically with people with pre-existing conditions, especially major pre-existing conditions. They need to be on these policies. They're really the only ones that are going to cover them. Also, anybody that qualifies for some kind of government subsidy based on their household size and income, we're probably not going to sell them something else if they can get health insurance for next to nothing. As usual, anybody that does insurance knows everything goes up every year. So max out of pockets for next year going up to $8,550 for a single, and a nice comfortable $17,100 for a family, which everybody has. So why should we be talking about supplemental products? That's one reason why, the high out-of-pocket expenses there. The next slide is just kind of a little example of the average household savings. So right now, the average household has about a little bit over $8,800 in their savings account, so far less than what they would need if something actually was going to happen. And so we're looking at creating alternative solutions. Due to the increase in ACA plans, the premiums, the deductibles, the max out of pockets going up every single year, we need to find something for people that these just can't afford these products. And so we're going to look at creating packages and products that we can use for alternate, basically, coverage. Big thing is we're going to talk a little bit about, this is a big one Nate specifically hits on, stop being an order taker and become a problem solver. So I don't like when I have agents refer clients to me specifically and they say, well, just give them the cheapest plan. Or when you're talking to a client, they're always going to call in and say, well, I want the cheapest plan. I don't usually go to the doctor. I don't get sick much. Well, that's great. I say, well, do you have car insurance? When's the last time you got in a car accident? Why do you pay for your car insurance? If you haven't gotten in a car accident in the last 10 years, you're getting ripped off. Why do you have homeowners insurance? Same thing. Has your house burned down in the last 5, 10 years? Probably not. Why are you paying for it? Are you getting ripped off? No. So it's making people look at health insurance like those things. Now, those things are mandated usually, so you have to have them, but it's getting people to think about those products and look at health insurance the same way. You're not going to go buy a new car, let's say a Lamborghini, and take it to your Allstate agent and say, well, I haven't gotten in an accident in the last 10 years. I don't really think I need this coverage. I had a client last year specifically trying to get health insurance. Middle of the year, this one stuck out to me. Her husband had a couple heart conditions. No special enrollment period, couldn't do anything for them. They were up to a little over $400,000 in medical bills. So if you're going to cover a Lamborghini, why would you not get health insurance, which is going to easily cost you about the price of 2 Lamborghinis? They can add up pretty quick. And so with ACA plans specifically, it's nice that they're getting these subsidies. These premiums are next to nothing. You might have a $0 premium, you might have a 20, 30. Instead of just saying, okay, great, you got free health insurance, start talking to the client. Can you afford 8, 10, 15,000 out of pocket? No. Well, why not for 20, 30, 40, 80 bucks? Why don't I throw a critical illness plan on there, an accident hospitalization plan? Well, guess what? Now for 80 bucks a month, anything happens, you're hospitalized with an illness, your accident, get in an accident, get injured, they're going to pay your deductible max out of pocket for you. You've got a critical illness plan, 25 up to 100,000. A lot of carriers will go. Well, you get an illness, are you going to be able to work? No. A lot of these indemnity plans will send that cash to your client. They can use these for bills and other things. So it's really important, and they're so cheap. And so we're going to talk a little bit about another niche where this is a really, really big thing, is short-term medical. But on the ACA plans, another thing that I think is really important is, with those people that say, well, I don't go to the doctor a lot, probably not going to meet my deductible, especially if they're on a subsidy. If you're looking between a $4,000 and a $6,000, deductible or max out of pocket, what I like to do personally is sell them the higher deductible since they're probably not going to hit it anyway, but at the same time, they probably don't have the money in savings to cover those out-of-pocket expenses. So save them $100 in premium, go with a higher deductible or higher max out of pocket, reinvest some of that savings, 30, 40 bucks, let's get a critical illness plan on there, an accident, dental, whatever else you need, and we're still going to save you money. And that's the important thing. We're better protecting our clients, saving them money, and better protecting them. Short-term medical. So because of the increase in premiums, the out-of-pocket expenses, for people that don't have pre-existing conditions, don't qualify for a subsidy, we have seen a huge, huge demand for the short-term medical or non-compliant plans, I also call them. So what are they? Why are they popular? Who is it best for? Well, basically it's a plan that's not mandated by the government to cover all the 10 minimal essential benefits that the ACA plans have to. So if you fall into this category where you don't need maternity, pre-existing mental health, some of these conditions that aren't forced to be covered through short term, you're not paying for those coverages, so you can actually provide better coverage, lower deductibles for 50, 60% less, and we'll have some examples at the end that show that, less than what an ACA plan is going to cost your client. So, couple pros, you can enroll in it year-round. That's really nice for anybody that doesn't have a special enrollment. Even if they can qualify for a subsidy, get them something to get them to open enrollment. You can start them at any date. We talked about the lower premiums. Ability to package supplemental is the one we're going to hit on big time. That's going to be the most important. Tons of carrier options. So depending on where your client lives, how long a duration they want the plan to be, it's going to kind of determine what carrier we're going to look at. Cons, like we talked about, they're medically underwritten. They don't cover pre-existing conditions, except for some. There's United Healthcare now that does cover some after 12-month waiting periods. No maternity mental health or RX, and you cannot have an HSA with those. Big thing is also, too, that's a lot of them are starting to cover RX, especially generic drugs. So that's not necessarily a con anymore. Next slide. So these are some of the carriers: National General, United Health, IHC, Pivot, Blue Cross's New Armor Health. We've got several carriers here that we work with. So these are just kind of some stats that Nate had thrown up here. So accidents, 83.6 million visit physician offices and 42.3 million visit ERs for accidental injuries. Most of them are simple stuff, sprains, strains, nothing major. So we look at adding fixed indemnities, and some of these plans we're going to show you, even people that have subsidies, we can still put them on a short-term medical, add a critical illness accident hospital plan, and still save them 50% in premium, even if they're getting a slight subsidy. So just because they're getting a subsidy doesn't necessarily mean ACA compliant is going to be the best way for them. So we've kind of talked a little about these, but a lot of carriers have cancer and critical illness policies. A lot of these pay lump sums based on the amount of medical bills you have. So if you have $30,000 in medical bills, they're going to send you a check for $30,000. The nice thing is you can use that for whatever you want. So if you need to pay bills, car payments, rent, whatever it is, you can use it for those expenses. 10 to 50K, I would say actually a lot of them, some go up to 100,000. So even for $100,000 for a middle-aged person, those critical illness plans and cancer plans are pretty darn cheap. Dental and vision, I think you threw on here. This is just kind of a no-brainer. Dental and vision isn't necessarily something you sell, but it's great to ask every client, do you need dental and vision? Because it's something that a lot of people don't have. Here's a couple stats. $288 is the average exam. 108 million people don't have dental coverage, and a lot of them have waiting periods. So by the time they're coming to you saying, I need dental, well, it's too late. You've got a waiting period, and it's not going to cover your crown, or it's going to cover next to nothing of your crown. So this, I think, was another. I exam every 2 years. I think it depends, too, on contacts. It might be every year. So again, anything, it's a good thing to get your eyes checked out. And again, vision, it's so cheap. I mean, I know VSP starts a single plan at about $13, $14 a month. It's an easy thing to add on there. So these are some examples that Nate had put together. So we have an ACA plan on the left and a short-term medical on the right. And so this is a quote in Elkhorn of the 35-year-old male. He makes over the amount to collect any kind of subsidy, so he would pay full price. On the left, you've got a $6,900 out-of-pocket max bronze plan. And then you have a short-term medical package, which is going to have medical, a critical illness, accident, hospital, and dental. And here you can kind of see the difference, the breakdown. But the big thing we're looking at is we're taking some of that saved money and reinvesting it into better protecting our clients. We went from a $6,900 max out of pocket to a $2,500. We've got an accident hospital plan that's going to cover their entire deductible max out of pocket if they're injured or hospitalized in any way. We've got the critical illness also that's going to pay them up to a $25,000 lump sum that they can use for bills, rent, whatever they need. And it doubles as a term life policy, which hopefully they don't need. And we've added dental, and we're still coming in at $255 versus $529. I mean, this is obviously an insane difference, over 50%, and you've gotten them way better coverage, and they're better protected. That's a big thing. And you're going to get heavily rewarded on this, and this is where a lot of agents are missing out, is in this specific sector, because look at the difference in annual commission. $216 for the ACA plan versus $803. So we've saved them over $3,200 in premium. but we're actually saving them a ton more than that. That's just what they're saving in premium. We're not looking at the savings in, if something happens, they're not going to have to meet their max out of pocket, $2,500 versus $6,900. They're going to have that $2,500 covered if it's an accident or they're hospitalized due to an illness. So we're saving them a lot more than $3,200. That's just what we're saving them if nothing happens. So here's another example of one of the things we talked about. Even if someone does qualify for a subsidy, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best idea for them. This is a 35-year-old male in Elkhorn that does qualify for a subsidy, and we're looking at $529 a month versus the $255 for an ACA package. Excuse me. This one's an example of reinvesting some of the safe premium on some better things. Sam, if you could go to the next slide. So here we've added a hospital and accident plan. So without a subsidy, they would have paid $529 a month for a bronze plan. We got them a subsidy, so it broke it down to $240, and we've added an accident and hospital plan. So again, this is one of those things where even the difference of just adding an accident plan, $216 in commission versus $381, so you're getting heavily rewarded for better protecting your clients, which is, it's the right thing to do. Again, we're not trying to sell them things they don't need, but with these max out of pockets and deductibles, people don't have this money in savings. They're not going to be able to afford anything. And again, you purchase health insurance just like car insurance and homeowners insurance. You hope you don't need it, because if you use it, that means something bad happened. Okay, but if you do need it, it's a lifesaver. So here's an example of a family quote, so we can kind of look at that as well. So 68130 Omaha area, 35 male, 32 female, a 7 and 4-year-old kid, not eligible for a subsidy. A bronze copay plan would cost them almost $1,600 a month for a $16,300 max out of pocket, versus an ACA package for $660. If you could go to the next slide, Sam. We've added an accident hospital plan, cancer, heart attack, stroke, and a term life plan through Bestow, which Nick is going to talk about, which is going to be a great, great product here. Really, really good for life insurance. It's going to make it really easy to add that to any client you really talk to. And our commission has jumped from $216 to $2,108 for the year. And we've cut their premium to $660 versus $1,587. You've got a $2,500 max out of pocket risk per person versus $16,300 for the family. And again, we've got the accident hospital, so that's going to get paid. So that $11,130 we've saved them in premiums has resulted in 10 times more commission. And the best part is that $11,000, again, you're saving them way more than that if something happens and they're needing a lower out of pocket. They've got a cancer, heart attack, stroke plan to cover them, hospital, accident, term life. I mean, this is going to be a much, much better situation if something happens than with an ACA plan. And we're saving them a ton of money, and we're making more money. So you're getting rewarded for doing the right thing for your client. So that's a big, big thing. So final slide. If this isn't something for you, if you don't want to do individual, if it's too complicated, you don't want to get licensed and appointed, do all the training with all the companies, that's where I come into play. So I work on their split case sales team. And so what you can do is actually refer your client, just make the introduction, say, hey, I work with Chris over at OCI. He's my individual go-to guy. He's great at what he does. Give him a call, let him know I sent you, and I take it from there. I don't want you to do anything else. I will do 100% of the work, and we will give you half of the commission. And that commission will be yours for the life of that client. Doesn't matter what product they're on. It doesn't matter if they move products. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be licensed or appointed with that company. As long as you've got your health and life license and you're through OCI, you will get half that credit for the life of that client. So it's a great opportunity, I think, especially for agents that don't want to do it. Maybe you do PNC, maybe you just do life, disability, annuities, whatever it is you do. Don't let that client go to someone else who can offer them individual health and also offer what you offer and lose that client. Get them over to us. We'll provide that service for you and make sure that we take good care of them and you retain your client while building your block of business, which I think is going to be a win-win for everybody. So that's really all I had. I don't know who's next. Nick?
Any questions? Are you licensed in other states?
Yeah, so we are pretty much, we're rapidly growing. So I specifically in about 14 states. I am responsible for about most of the Southeast. So Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nebraska, Oklahoma, yeah, North South Carolina, Tennessee, gosh, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas. So yeah. And if I'm not, we have other agents that, you know, Yvonne Warren's a great agent as well. Texas, all the Southwest really, Texas, Colorado, Arizona. We've got another agent, Chris, and we're going to get more agents as well. So we're going to keep growing.
So if we have someone that moves from Nebraska to Texas, we have to be licensed.
No, that's the best part. It doesn't matter.
You wouldn't have to be licensed in Texas.
Yeah.
Then you could kick it over. So Yvonne Warren is our agent
Yep.
licensed in Texas. She could write it.
Yep, I would kick it to Yvonne, and you just keep getting paid for it. Yeah. So.
Chris, do we have a map of that?
I'm going to get with Nate. We need to get an updated one. We don't have an updated one, but that's a good question. Now, you can go to the website, OCI Services, and if you click on the split case referral, it does have a map. I think it needs to be updated a little bit, but there is a map there that shows the highlighted state that coordinates with the agent that's responsible for that, and you can actually directly refer through that link. But that's a good point. I do think it does need to be updated quite a bit. We've made some changes. We just added Florida, so we couldn't do a lot in Florida before. Yeah?
What is your, like, usually I just email the individual sales who have a referral. Do you guys prefer us going through that split case link online, or can?
I personally don't care. If you want to refer them straight to me, and again, how you do it is up to you too. Some people, I do notice that we get a much better closing rate if you explain the relationship with OCI and have them call us versus us calling them and them not knowing who it is. Their voicemail's full. They don't check their voicemail. The voicemail's not set up. There's a number of obstacles you have to overcome if you just give me a number and say, Chris, call this person. But if you tell them, hey, I work with Chris personally, great guy, which I am, obviously, send them over. I always get, and I get back to clients within 24 hours at most. Open enrollment, maybe a little bit more, but.
So how do you report the numbers back to the agent? We do send an email, and how does this extract?
Great question. So we're improving that as well as we're growing. So we're actually coming out with a new system that's actually going to allow agents to log in. And it used to be you could only see the clients to which policies we've sold for you. That wasn't quite great because a lot of agents want to know more. They want to know, okay, that's great, but what are they doing with them? Are they calling them? Are they, you know, what's going on with my clients? Pretty soon you're going to have the ability to actually log on, read the notes that I put in there, and see what I see. So you're going to be able to say, okay, well, Chris didn't not sell this guy. This guy just never called him back. Chris left him 3 voicemails, and I can see that in the notes. Or yes, Chris is currently working with him. He has notes here that shows he sent him quotes, and the quotes will be attached so you see what I'm sending your clients as well. So we're making huge improvements, and I think that's going to be live pretty soon. I'm waiting to hear. I got to talk with Nate about that. But it will be a huge improvement because that's one of our biggest complaints from agents. What's going on with my referrals? I want to know if they're being sold and how many policies I have. So that's going to be a big improvement. Any other questions? Job done. All right, there you go.
All right, thank you, Chris. If you guys see Chris in the hallways, tell him he does a good job. He's really low on confidence. But without much further ado, Nick is going to talk about that quoting tool with Bestow.
All right, so we baited and switched y'all. If you look in the guide, it's supposed to be Nate Olson, but as you can tell, I'm the bigger, better looking, better beard than Nate is. So if you want to relay that information that the guy who actually presented for you has a much better beard, he would love that. So we're super excited about some new toys that we're bringing. And Chris kind of alluded to the tracking capabilities. So I guess what I want to first ask is, so everybody in here does med subs or does individual health. Who has free time during open enrollment? Seriously, nobody, right? Okay, so there is no free time, right? You hear us constantly harp, cross-sell, 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 cross-sell. You're leaving easy money on the table, but you don't have any open time during that open enrollment. So then second question, who has ever sold a term life policy in their career? Please tell me, everybody raise their hand for me here. Okay, so term life insurance has come a long way. We have carriers that it's 100% automated, from the application is electronic. They don't have to do a phone interview anymore. They can do the phone interview online. It's electronic delivery at the very end. But still, what is that turnaround time and how much time does that take out of your day to do that? That's still a process to go through the underwriting process. It's still a process to complete the application for them, collect the signatures, and absolutely everything. So we're super excited to announce a new relationship that we've brought on, an insurance company called Bestow. So what this is going to be, and Sam, if you want to put the actual website up, I'm not going to run through it with you guys, but what this is it's a consumer-facing, instant term quoting application system. Now, that's a lot of words, right? Instant term quoting, client-facing. So what this is this is the OCI link. We would get each one of you in this room your own URL link that is coded to your name. So what the intent is behind this is you get that client that says, yes, I would love to have some life insurance, or you say, yeah, you probably need some more term life insurance. Rather than going through the entire process, filling out the application and everything, we now have the ability for you to just send them a link, and you're done. This entire process takes about 10 minutes for the client to go through the quoting process, the application process, the approval process, and then getting an actual e-policy. It's all instant. It's getting about 65% approval rating. So not everybody is getting it, of course, but it's getting 65% approval rating. It goes from 50,000 up to $1 million. It has a 10 and a 20-year term, and it's 18 to 85, I believe. I don't have the paper in front of me. Commission is going to be very similar compared to a traditional underwritten life product. I want to say it's 5 or 10 points less. It's going to be different on the 10 and the 20-year term. I could take 10 minutes. I could run us through that. I'm not going to, just to keep things moving along. But it truly is that simple, guys. I'm envisioning this as you bringing up term life insurance. Hey, when was the last time you looked at your life insurance? Do you have enough life insurance? What I'd love to be able to do is send you a link when you're free, tonight at midnight, on your phone. It's mobile capable and everything. But when you're free, click on this link. Go through the process. It's going to ask you how much life insurance you want. It's going to ask you a dozen or so health questions, and then it's going to get you approved right there on the spot. The best part is everybody's hands off on this transaction, but let's say they go through and they get declined for whatever reason that may be. We then turn around and we get notification from Bestow, hey, Nick Albert tried to go and get life insurance. Unfortunately, he was declined. You need to reach out to him because he would be a great prospect for traditional underwritten products. I know everybody's mind is blown right now and studying up on the material I sent out. But we are super excited about this. Charles talked about changing the industry that's broke, and we really do feel that that this brokerage business is broke, and we want to continue to bring new solutions to you guys, and we are pretty excited on this. Questions?
Okay, so is this just term, or do they offer the options of like an LTC rider or other options like that that people often need but they have no clue about? So you can have that conversation with them.
Right, great question. So is this just term, or does it have other options available on it? So this is I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunate. This is just straight term insurance. This is only a 10-year term, only a 20-year term. So one other option that we do have, that if you're thinking that this client might need long-term care, this client might need a fully underwritten or life insurance with a children's term rider, or whatever the scenario may be, same concept that Chris just went over. You don't have any time. Don't leave that client hanging and not doing something and having them go to one of your competitors to get them taken care of. Let our OCI team, we will turn around and do the exact same thing Chris just said. You call and say, Nick, this guy needs long-term care coverage. We talked about it really briefly. We will pick up the phone, we'll call, we'll do 100% of the work. We're transparent throughout the entire process, and then we split the revenue 50-50 on that. I believe it's one rate class.
So not tobacco or non-tobacco?
I believe it's one rate class, and it's simple, and this is made for keeping it simple, right? If we want to get into the weeds, we do have other great options, right? If we want to go through the entire traditional underwriting route, we do have a program that we'll be releasing, hopefully by open enrollment, called Ticket Direct. Same concept as this, client facing. The client can go in and run their own their own illustration, their own quote, and then that would have the ability for them to go through an application process. But that will be traditional underwriting, which may require follow-up, and it's not going to be quick, simple, painless type scenario. Yes, all the above. They're running script checks, MIB, LexisNexis, DC. Do you remember what else they're using? I know they're using a handful of behind-the-scenes things to do their underwriting. And is this going to be the cheapest rate? Absolutely not. I mean, they're paying for this, but they're only paying 5, maybe 10% more. So that example Chris had on that last screen of that $250,000, I don't even know how old that client was. Prudential's not in the room, so I'm going to pick on them. When we ran that quote was actually $4 less per month compared to Prudential's fully underwritten product. So there are situations where it's going to be cheaper. So it is going to have the same traditional health questions. There's a dozen or so. I believe they talk about hazardous activities, what your medical, they're going to ask about the medical history. It learns as well. So if you say, I'm diabetic, it's going to ask additional questions type scenario.
So is there a key group of, you mentioned diabetic, so that usually it's a table rating or?
Right, and if you look, hand me one of those. So on one of those pages, there's some key knockout questions, or maybe they say who the prime candidate is. So uninsurable scenarios. So I actually threw diabetes out there, but that's one of the uninsurables. And I do have an entire presentation. I mean, we have a PowerPoint that goes through screen by screen, and I just wasn't going to get up here and use a half-hour PowerPoint in this short, sweet. We are still finalizing our contracting and making sure that it's a smooth process to get you guys contracted. I was hoping that we would have been finalized by today. We're not. I'm anticipating it being sometime next week. So we'd be able to start setting up these URLs for everybody starting next week, hopefully. But again, this is not the end-all catch-all. If you have the free time and you want to go through the traditional underwriting route, you're probably going to save your client a couple bucks. But again, that is a 30-day process, right? And there is going to be some additional touches out of you. Other questions?
Are we gonna all get, or should we reach out to you if we do wanna get contracted?
Correct, yes. We will be sending out, once we get official with them, we will be sending out a webinar invite so we can kind of run through the screen by screen and everything. And then, yeah, you'll have to reach out to us to get you contracted to set up that URL. I'm not done talking, so back off. All right, thanks, guys. I'm around if you have any questions about it.
All right, thanks, Nick. Next up, we have Cassandra Mueller with BASE. She's going to talk about individual coverage, health reimbursement arrangements, and how those tie in with what Chris was talking about in short-term medical.
Thank you. Tell me how much time do I got? I will be, okay, I can be respectful if I need to. I'm just going to give you two. We're going to talk about two HRAs today. And the first one we're going to talk about really bleeds right into everything Chris said. So this is going to tie in perfectly. I'm skipping a few slides just because I want to be respectful of time. So go ahead and go to the next. I just want you to know the next one, that sometimes when legislation passes a new HRA, a lot of times people think that that means it's replacing an old one, and that has not happened. So we're going to talk about the new HRA that legislation passed for 2020 called the Individual Coverage HRA. But I want you to see that if you are an agent, even PNC, light, or individual group, there's HRA options for just about anything now, and there's going to be an expansion of HRAs coming in the future as well. So go ahead and go to the next. The one I want to talk about first that bleeds into everything Chris said is what's called a Section 105 HRA. So think of a Section 105 HRA with one eligible employee. So what we're talking about is the self-employed, sole proprietor, an S Corp, a C Corp, it's just themselves in the business. Okay, I call it the mom and pop type HRA. All right. If you are sole proprietor, self-employed, the HRA, the Section 105 HRA has been around since the 50s. This is the one thing the Affordable Care Act has safe harbored. Okay, so you can be deducting as a business deduction your premiums, all your out-of-pocket medical expenses, short-term health plans, COBRA premiums, some of those fixed indemnity plans, Medicare premiums, Medicare supplements. Okay, so this is the one HRA where short-term health plans can become a business deduction. So on an average, our average Section 105 HRA client saves around $5,000 because think of how they're saving. If you are self-employed, the only eligible employee in your own business, and you're deducting as a business deduction, you're saving the federal, the state, and the 15.3% FICA on every dollar. So we just talked about, deductibles increasing, out-of-pocket increasing. So without an HRA in place, the only time somebody can have a tax benefit on their out-of-pocket medical expenses right now without an HRA on a normal is if it exceeds 10% of your gross income. And then you can only deduct the part that exceeds 10% of your gross income. But with a Section 105 HRA, you're including $1. So I'm going to actually skip. I just talked about a few slides. I just want to skip to an example. So go to the next. Yep, keep going. I'm sorry. Okay, stop. Here's just a quick example of how a self-employed, it's the no-brainer. The self-employed is the no-brainer on an HRA. So this is just a quick example. Let's say they have premium costs of $12,000 a year and out-of-pocket of $6,000. Now, $6,000 is actually low. Normally, a sole proprietor, they're going to take their premium, they're going to put it on the front page of their taxes, and they're going to save federal and state. Just like normal. They're not going to do anything with their out-of-pocket unless it exceeds 10% of their gross income. But if you can go to the next slide. With an HRA, here's the standard deduction. I know we talked to a lot of accountants, so we like to talk about deductions. And here's your HRA deduction. I don't know if you can see that. I could hardly see from back there. So with your standard deduction, they're going to save the federal and the state right here. Federal, state, they're going to have $3,200 in a standard deduction. But with an HRA, they're going to take their standard deduction, plus they save the 15.3% FICA. This is a business deduction. 100% tax deductible business deduction. So they save federal, state, and the additional 15.3% FICA, and now they get to include their $6,000 of out-of-pocket medical expenses, and their deductions, is $7,600. And this is a deduction with only $12,000 a year in premium. That's not very much at all. Yes? That's just saying on an average out-of-pocket expense year, $1 to $6,000, they're taking it 100% business deduction for all their out-of-pocket. This was an example if a family had $6,000 a year in out-of-pocket. So when you're talking about increasing your commissions, you guys are selling a lot of short-term health plans. We're seeing it. Almost half of our Section 105 HRAs right now that we've done in the last 2 years half of them, 50% of them are coming in with short-term health plans. So that just tells us you guys are killing it on short-term health. You're increasing your commissions, but think about a sole proprietor that you're writing. When Chris gave that example of all the additional supplemental things you're going to add in there, you can be including a cancer policy, an accident policy. Some of those fixed indemnity plans can all be, so you're maybe the $600 in premiums that they have with their short-term health. Is this on and off? Short-term health, and then some of their fixed indemnity plans, you're turning them, adding an HRA, then you're giving them a business deduction for all that as well. So if you're doing short-term health or if you're doing individual plans, but you're working with sole proprietors, self-employed, where are we? We're in Nebraska. Family-owned farms, okay? What I call the mom and pop. Now you can exclude employees, so don't get tunnel vision on the self-employed, because you could have a business, a husband and wife own a business, and maybe they have part-time employees or seasonal employees. I have a 105 HRA. My husband's a teacher, but he runs a detasseling crew in the summer, every summer. So we hire about 40 kids. They walk through the fields. It's a lot of fun. I don't step foot in the cornfield, but our 40 employees are seasonal employees. We can exclude them. You can exclude employees under the age of 25. You can exclude employees that work less than 25 hours a week. So, think of like a flower shop. They might have a part-time. There's so many sole proprietors, self-employed businesses out there. And if you can tell them, I have a way to save you, have a tax deduction of $7,600, look what you just opened the door for. Of course, you're going to sell that life insurance plan, a long-term care premium. Some of those, you just found dollars for them and selling some of those things. I've saved tremendously with my Section 105 HRA. So that's a quick kind of down and dirty on the self-employed HRA, but if you have self-employed clients, we don't expect you to be HRA experts. We'll take care of it. Okay, we'll kind of explain the tax savings to them. I just do the math. What are your premiums every year? On an average, what are your out-of-pocket medical expenses? And then I just help them see how much they would save with the 105 HRA. Any questions on that?
So what if the sole or the individual is S corporation or LLC not filing as a sole proprietor?
Yep. So an LLC, everybody, is just more common. Everyone says, I'm an LLC. Well, if they're a single member LLC, that means they're still filing taxes as a sole proprietor. Okay, a sole proprietor, those are still the family-owned farms, you guys. They're an LLC filing taxes as a single member LLC. They hire their spouse and they pay their spouse a small W-2 wage. And then they have a W-2 employee. The farm reimburses the spouse tax-free to her for her and her family's premiums, her and her family's out-of-pocket expenses. Sole proprietors, actual filing a Schedule C, they hire their spouse. That's us. I hire my spouse. I pay him $170 a month. He's my W-2 employee. He gives that money right back to me. It's just how it works because he's smart. So with those family-owned farms, they're the no-brainer because a lot of times tax professionals are already giving the spouse a W-2 wage for other reasons. So it's very common. C corporations, they're a W-2 employee in their own business. They save the federal, state, and the 15.3%. S corporations are the one business structure that's a little different. They save the 15.3% of every dollar. So without an HRA, again, there's no tax benefits to them on out-of-pocket, but an S corporation is going to save the FICA, the 15.3%. C corporations, sole proprietors save at least 42.3% of every dollar, even if they're in the lowest tax bracket. So just identify your self-employed. You guys could be just educating them on a quick HRA that will help save taxes on that. Yes? For an HRA, $299. Yep, and we compensate you guys back for that. We send it directly. We partnered with OCI. We send it directly, and they send it directly to you. Yes?
Can a person establish a 2020 HRA?
So one of the things that we cried so heavily on, they used to let us backdate. The IRS used to say, We could set up an HRA in December and backdate it to January, and they've stopped the retroactive backdating of documents. That was a bummer for a company like Base. So you can set up an HRA in the month in which so August, we're still setting up August 1, Section 105 HRAs, and your expenses from August to December, but you are not getting your deductions from January to. And some of the best partnerships you guys can have as an accountant, if you guys have a really good partnership with an accountant, that's where, how much time do I have? Okay. I want to be respectful because the best part is next is lunch, so we got to be on time for lunch. So those things are, you could have your August premiums, your August out of pocket going forward, and then you'd be on a full plan year. Yes? B&D, yep, B&D, Medicare supplements. Yep, absolutely. So there's still a lot of self-employed that are on Medicare. So if you're in the Medicare space and they're still having some sort of self-employed business, this is going to, and then they can include any out-of-pocket, dental, vision expenses. Sometimes the more costly expenses for, is dental and vision. All right, let's move on. I want to get at least 5 minutes in on the new HRA. This is new. Legislation passed a new HRA for 2020 called an individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement. So an HRA stands health reimbursement arrangement, meaning employer dollars given to an employee. Okay, the benefits of an HRA, running dollars through an HRA, the benefits to an employee, tax-free. It's a tax-free reimbursement to an employee, and it's 100% business deduction to an employer. That's the benefits on both sides. So remember the ACA came into place and they monkeyed around with everything and said you can no longer reimburse for individual health insurance premiums. Stop doing it. You're going to be subject to a $100 per employee per day penalty. Okay? They are now saying an employer can reimburse employees tax-free to them for their individual health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket medical expenses. So employers have options now. They can go group health care, they want to offer benefits, or they can offer an HRA. They could say, Cassandra's Photography, I have 10 employees. I'm going to offer an ICHRA, an individual coverage HRA, and I'm going to reimburse my employees $200 a month, tax-free to them for their individual health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket medical expenses. I could say premiums only if I'm trying to mirror kind of a group healthcare plan where I'm just offering benefits of health. I could say I'm just offering an HRA for premiums only. Or I could say I want to offer an HRA for premiums and out-of-pocket medical expenses. You can kind of customize that out as you go along. This is considered, one of the biggest parts of this is considered an employer-sponsored plan. So what that means is any size of company can offer an HRA, this ICHRA. You could be over 50, you could be over a pay or play. So if you're over 50 FTEs, you have to pay a penalty or play, meaning you used to have to get group health care or pay a penalty. No longer, you also have an additional option. You can say, I'm going to not get group health care or maybe drop group health care. In our state, in your state, in Nebraska, group's still a great benefit. Group's still a really viable option. Rates are sometimes just better than the individual. Not in every state is that happening. So the ICHRA is going crazy in some states. We're seeing a huge increase in every state with the ICHRA. But it's an employer-sponsored plan. You would now, if you're over 50 FTEs, you can offer an ICHRA, offer a dollar amount to your employees for their individual health premiums, okay? And then you're not subject to the penalties in place for offering benefits. Yeah, can you go to the next? This is the best part of this HRA, so I want to focus whatever, you give me the 3, the 1, okay? This is the best part of this HRA. This is the first time that legislation passed an HRA that allows you to classify out. What that means is you can offer an HRA to your salaried employees only if you want. You can offer an HRA to your salaried employees at a certain dollar amount. I could say Cassandra's Photography is going to reimburse $400 a month to my salaried employees, and $200 a month to my hourly. Okay? You can classify out full-time, part-time employees, rating areas. We just set up an HRA where a company is based in California. They have group healthcare in California, but they hired an employee in Oregon. They hired an employee in Ohio. So they're offering an ICRA to those 2 employees because they're in a different rating area, and you can do that. And we're seeing a lot of it. I think COVID, if anything COVID's done is employers are realizing remote working works well, works better than they ever thought. And so employees are being hired in different locations, and it's working well. Well, you can set up an HRA for that rating area. If you're in a different rating area, you can have an ICRA. The other 80% of the ICRAs that are coming in right now are classified out. So they're saying, we're going to offer, let's say Cassandra's Photography has 10 employees, but 5 of my employees, maybe they receive high subsidies on the exchange. Okay, I'm going to offer an HRA to my salaried employee only, which maybe I'm trying to include myself as an owner in that, and maybe a manager, and then my other hourly employees that receive subsidies, I'm excluding them because I don't want them to lose their subsidy. So how it works with this new HRA is employees opt in or out. So if I have 10 employees and I'm going to offer the same amount to everyone, if 5 of my employees have subsidies, high subsidies, they are going to opt out of my HRA, and I hope they do, because I don't want to give them benefit dollars. I don't want to exchange money with the government. Okay, let them have their subsidy, let the subsidy take care of their premium. My other 5 employees that don't have subsidies are going to opt into my HRA. Okay, so it's a great control for an employer to keep control of their benefit dollars. Employees that have high subsidies, let them opt out, and that's a good thing. Don't think of it like you're not offering benefits to the 5 employees. You're actually doing them a great thing. They have a high subsidy, their premium is low. And the employees that don't have subsidies will opt in and receive my $200 or my, so that's just the kind of the general concept. An employer has options now. They can go group. They can offer benefits through an HRA, and they can classify out. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts. The other one thing I want to mention is, don't worry about my slides. I just like to talk. This will allow an employer a special enrollment period, okay, at any time throughout the year. That's one of the great parts about this. Is the first time they passed legislation where they're allowing the marketplace to open up outside of November 1. So an employer implements an HRA here for September 1. It gives all their employees an SEP for 60 days to get on the exchange, pick a plan, pick a different plan. Last month we set up an HRA for a group. He never intended to offer benefits. It wasn't anything he's ready to do, but 2 of his employees needed on the exchange. They had some health issues. He set up an HRA, is reimbursing $35 a month, not much, but he just was trying to create that SEP for the 2, all their employees, if they wanted to, could pick a different plan, but the 2 employees that really needed health care were able to get on and get a plan. So that is, I have flyers. I showed up late. I was going to pass flyers around to everyone on the 2 HRAs that I talked about are at the back end of the table, along with my card. I'm more than happy to do a Zoom meeting with your office, and we can talk about some of the nuts and bolts of these HRAs, but this is going to be a viable option during 4th quarter here for you. But thank you for having me. I always appreciate OCI. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Cassandra. Now, all of you just need to remember everything you learned today and put that into practice in the next 4 months. But that concludes our breakout session, lunchtime. So if you just go out these doors and back around to where we were, first thing in the morning, lunch is going to be served in that large, I think it's the Walnut ballroom. Thanks very much for attending. Have a great day.